On today's discussion, we'll be going over and talking about Starbucks. How do you wake up in the morning? Do you start off with a bowl of cereal or maybe a Pop Tart? Or are you one like myself and many other people in the world who wake up and instantly get a cup of coffee? Well, that's what we're going to be going over today is Starbucks. We're going to be discussing um, basically how the Starbucks business is ran and how it ties into the economic aspect. Starting off with Starbucks, we have their mission statement, which is to basically inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person in one cup, in one neighborhood at a time. All right, and just to kind of give you a backlog on Starbucks, so this company was established in March of 1971 in the Pike Place Market in Seattle, Washington. Their current headquarters does reside at 2401 Utah Avenue South in Seattle, Washington. The current CEO of Starbucks is Howard Schultz. Currently, Starbucks has over 24,000 stores in some 70 countries with over 10,000 stores in the United States. Starbucks currently employs around 238,000 people. Next up, we'll discuss the industry naming codes. Starbucks falls under the primary industry of coffee shop. Their standard industrial classification code is 2095 under roasted coffee. The North American Industry Classification System code is 7222135 under coffee shops. Fun fact, did you know Starbucks' name originated from the book Moby Dick? It's based off the first mate on the ship whose name was Starbuck, which is where they got their name from. So who makes up the consumer base for Starbucks? Who is basically keeping this company in business? After further research, I found that the primary consumer base for Starbucks happened to be men and women ranging from the age of 25 to 40. This accounted for approximately 49% of Starbucks' sales. These were basically urbanites with relatively high incomes. They did have professional careers and a focus on social welfare. Now, they do also cater to young adults, ages 18 through 24, which are basically your college students. They account for 40% of the sales, which would come into play since the Starbucks restaurants are sometimes places where you can study, read, and meet up to maybe discuss a project or meeting together. Last but not least, Starbucks does also cater to the kids and teens from the ages 13 to 17. While they only accounted for roughly 2% of the sales, it is also part of their consumer base. Now, in my opinion, Starbucks definitely depends on its consumer base here nationally in the United States as well as outside of the country internationally. Because they do hold several branches or chains in other countries, I think that that customer base certainly is something important to Starbucks as well. So, who makes up next, we'll discuss the determinants of demand. In this case, for Starbucks, there were four different determinants. There was taste and customer preference, which is basically up to the customer what their taste is, what they're interested in as far as drink wise. While this is kind of hard to pinpoint in a logical manner, it just really just depends on the season, maybe society's outlook, how an individual is feeling as far as taste and preference is concerned. Maybe you can think of it this way as maybe seasonal holidays change, it gets colder outside, individuals are more likely to want something warm to drink, which would increase the demand of them wanting to go and get a warm drink from Starbucks. The next determinant is income. Since Starbucks caters to individuals with a relatively high income, I would imagine that the demand for Starbucks would remain the same. Um, this customer in particular would have a disposable income, which wouldn't affect their decision. I think they would continue to buy the drinks as long as they were priced at a reasonable price range. Third, you have your change in price of related goods, which is basically substitutes. Coffee and tea do kind of go hand in hand. And since there aren't really chains out there that just cater to coffee, or excuse me, to tea, um, the demand of coffee is just something that's going to likely stick around and be there just because it is sometimes a crucial part of one's day or evening. Fourth, you have your price. Depending on how the consumer that shops at Starbucks sees the product or how high they hold it in priority will determine the demands. Again, we're dealing with a relatively high income, so I don't think the price is anything that would be bothersome for them. Granted, I do think the individual would pay attention to the price being too high or too low, which I think could affect the demand of Starbucks. Up next, we'll discuss elasticity. Basically, you have your available substitutes. In this particular situation, I consider that to be Starbucks' competition, basically like your Dunkin' Donuts, your Pete's Coffee, your McDonald's, your Costa Express over located in the UK. And then you have your market definition, your luxury versus necessity, and your time period. In this particular situation, because there are substitutes that are available, Starbucks is going to be considered an elastic demand. And that happens to show up in each bullet point. As far as the market demand is concerned, um, though food itself is an elastic product, when you go into further detail, like coffee or maybe a certain type of food, like Chinese food or Mexican food, it does become an elastic because there are various substitutes out there, and you narrow the market. Um, it's just going to make it easier to find a substitute for that particular type of drink in this situation. And then you have your luxury versus necessity. While I could see this going either way, one could think it is a luxury if it's you can start your day without coffee. It's not something that you have to have, so it can be a luxury. And at the same time, it can also be a necessity. Again, some people are just that's the way they start their day. When they wake up, they get a cup of coffee and they begin their day. So they may see that as a necessity, something to help wake them up, get their day started, give them that energy to get through their day. So again, with after looking into those four components of elasticity, I did find that Starbucks is going to be at an elastic demand. Then you have your market structure. This basically consists of the number of competitors, your product similarity, barriers to entry, and the importance of non-price competition. Um, Now, I did find that this Starbucks has more of a monopolistic structure because because they offer different products. It's not just a regular cup of coffee, though they do offer that. They are pretty different in quality and looks as far as what they provide. They give you a specific type of drink that many other competitors don't give. As far as competition, again, that would just be like McDonald's or Pete's Coffee, Dunkin' Donuts, things of that nature. In my opinion, I did find that the it was pretty easy. There was an easy entry to the market. There were not as many barriers. Since Starbucks is a very well-known company, it would just be easy for one to go to that location if they desired such a drink. So in return, I do believe Starbucks has some pricing power. Um, is there aren't many companies out there like Starbucks that provides you with such a detailed drink catered to your liking and preference, as well as with such great quality. Um, Granted, I think Starbucks would also want to keep in mind that they don't want to overcharge as they would eventually end up losing customers. But at the same time, they certainly have power over changing their prices as they don't have competition very close in hand as to what they currently are providing. Up next, you'll see the financial analysis for Starbucks. Um, I did find a chart that took it back to 2013 where basically the revenue growth and sales growth for Starbucks is it's doing pretty well. It does tend to go up and slightly down at times. I know it looks like in the year of 2014 they did happen to go down, but ended up going back up in 2015. And 2014 Starbucks did bring in approximately 16.45 US dollars in revenue, which majority came from beverage sales in the United States, roughly around 9.46 billion. The following year in 2005, Starbucks actually brought in 19.16 billion. So we're definitely increasing as far as their revenue itself is concerned. And again, here we have another chart just showing you the sales growth and revenue for Starbucks, starting from the year of 2013 up till 2016. Now, I wasn't able to find any comparable graphs for any of Starbucks' competitors to compare it to. However, um, I would like to, or I would think, because there aren't many companies out there that are competing with Starbucks as far as providing such detailed beverages um, with such great quality, I would think Starbucks is doing better than their competitors at this current time. This, in conclusion, will wrap up my project for Starbucks. Thank you.